Welcome to Stories Podcast. I'm your host, Amanda Weldin. Today's story is called In Your Dreams, an original story written for you by Daniel Hinds and performed for you by Kelsie Lee. Thanks. Enjoy the episode.
In Your Dreams. Alex was a pirate sailing the high seas. There was a storm raging, sky dark and ruthless. The ocean flipped and stirred like a sick belly. The bitter salt spray stung Alex's cheeks and wind-driven needles. In the lightning-racked distance, an enemy ship was approaching. On its sails was the Jolly Roger, a white skull and crossbones on a field of midnight black. "Ahoy, crew!" cried the captain of Alex's own ship. He was tall but stooped, with a beard that would put a wizard to shame. He stood atop a madly bobbing deck, the tiller wheel straining and groaning in his brick-red hands. "At the scurvy, dogs!" he bellowed. The storm tore at them madly, driving the two ships together. Alex screamed with the rest of his crew, drawing his cutlass and brandishing it in the air. The lightning crashed again, gleaming along the razor edge of his sword, and then the enemy was before them. "Hold on!" someone screamed, and then the ships collided. Alex whirled as wood splintered and flew, weapons flashed, and cannons thundered. It was terrible, horrifying, and Alex didn't know what to do. Suddenly, he remembered. He was only 8 years old. What was he doing in a battle? This was way too dangerous. His heart began to thump like a heavy fist, pounding on the door to be let in. Fear clutched at his heart with its slimy octopus tentacles, threatening to drag Alex down to the briny deep. "Help!" he cried, throwing aside his sword. His sword? He suddenly realized he had never even seen a real sword, never mind held one. How would he have any idea how to fight? He didn't. "Help me! Help!" The battle raged around him, the pirates bellowing and brawling. Alex was terrified. What was he doing? Why had he ever decided to become a pirate? He had school tomorrow. Something about that didn't make sense. Pirates didn't go to school. Before he could think on it further, a hideous pirate lunged for him with a rusty blade. Alex screamed and sat up in bed, his heart still hammering. Around him, his bedroom was quiet. His Pokemon posters still hung on the walls. His Saturn-shaped nightlight glowed cheerily in the corner by his bookcase. It had been a nightmare. Just a nightmare. He let his head thump back against the pillow, trying to make his body relax. "It's okay. It was just a bad dream," he whispered to himself, pulling his covers close around him. Just a bad dream. He tried to calm down, but it was no use. Giving up, he turned on his salt lamp and read a comic book by the dull peachy light. It was a long time before he finally drifted back to sleep, nose nestled on the pages. The next day, in the light of the sun where nightmares seemed silly, Alex figured out what had happened. Before bed last night, he had been playing a pirate game on his tablet. It had lots of swords and battles. Clearly, the pirates had taken root in his mind and given him the bad dreams. He said as much to his friends during lunch, and they seemed to agree. "Same thing happened to me once," Ramoni said around a mouthful of turkey sandwich. "I was playing Bone Storm, and that night I had a nightmare so bad I had to sleep with the light on." "For sure," agreed Jeremy. "I did it once with a Stephen King book my brother gave me. Scared me so bad I had to sleep on the couch so I could watch TV until I passed out again." He shook his head. "Do you have any idea how boring TV is in the middle of the night? I watched some guy try to sell a banana peeler for like an hour. I mean, who can't figure out a banana?" They laughed as Jeremy pretended to be puzzled by opening a banana for a minute. "So what did you do to fix it?" Alex asked finally. "I don't want to have nightmares like that again, but I can't stop thinking about it." And he couldn't. All day that rusty sword and hideous pirate face had swum into view. Somehow, he was convinced that when he fell asleep, he'd drop right into that same dream, that same nightmare. And this time, maybe the sword would get him. "Just play something else before bed," Ramoni said with a shrug. "Something to take your mind off it." "Yeah," cheered Jeremy. "It was pirates, right? So just pick something pirates hate." "What do pirates hate?" asked Alex. "Cannons," said Ramoni. "Are you crazy? Pirates love cannons. They use them all the time." "Well, they hate getting shot by cannons." "That's true. Wait! Sharks! They'd hate sharks." "Oh, like a great white," agreed Ramoni. "Sharks are still scary, though," said Alex. They all thought for a moment. "What if you controlled the shark?" said Ramoni. "You wouldn't have to be afraid of anything." "Perfect! I know there are a ton of big shark games out there. Try one of those before bed, and you help scare the pirates away," Jeremy said. Alex nodded, but he wasn't sure it would help. That night, when he got home, he couldn't help but think of their conversation. He deleted the pirate game and searched for shark games instead. He found one quickly where he was controlling a giant shark that ate little pixel people. Alex imagined them all as hideous, rusty sword pirates and went to sleep that night feeling a little more confident. "Everybody back to the beach!" Alex looked around. He was swimming in the ocean. It was Hampton Beach, where he always went with his family, except his parents and cousins were all on the shore. They were yelling at him. A lifeguard was running along the edge of the waves, but she didn't come into the water. Confused, Alex turned sluggishly. Then he saw the fin. It was 12 feet high, sticking out of the water, and as Alex watched it raised up and up, 2 glassy black eyes, like a doll's eyes, broke the ocean's surface. A gummy red mouth roared open, exposing row after row of razor metal teeth. Alex screamed and tried to swim, but it was like trying to move through marshmallow fluff. He had always been the fastest swimmer in his grade. What was going on? Behind him, the shark mouth opened wider and wider. It was big as a tunnel now, and Alex felt himself being sucked back into those gleaming teeth, each one like a pirate's sword in its own right. "Help! Help me!" Alex called, but the beach was further than ever, the shark closer. He screamed as the shark roared, swallowing him whole. Alex squeezed shut his eyes and waited to feel the teeth, but they never came. After a moment, he lifted his head, body still tense and shaking. "A nightmare," he said, blowing out a breath in relief. Around him was only his room, his posters, his nightlight. Another awful nightmare. He turned on his lamp and tried to read, but the fear was still on him, stuck and crusty like dried Elmer's glue. He knew that there were no sharks at the beach, and he knew they didn't get that big. And he knew they definitely wouldn't come to his bedroom. But still, the fear was in him now, carried over from his nightmare, and he couldn't seem to relax. It wasn't until the first light of dawn started to glow outside his windows that he felt safe enough to roll over and fall back to sleep. The next day at lunch, he was exhausted from being up all night. He was barely following along with Ramoni and Jeremy until Ramoni poked him in the arm. "Hello, Earth to Alex!" He shook his head, embarrassed. "Sorry, didn't get much sleep last night." "Oh, did the shark idea work?" Jeremy asked excitedly. "Probably not if he didn't sleep," said Ramoni. "Right," agreed Alex. "I didn't sleep a bit. I had an even worse nightmare about a shark eating me. It didn't work at all." "Okay, so, we just need a new plan," said Jeremy. "What if, maybe a giant squid—" "No more sea creatures," Alex said quickly. "Right. We need to change it altogether," said Ramoni. "Well, I've been playing this new alien game. You should try that." "Aliens? I don't know. It's fun. Just try it out." Alex agreed, but told himself he wasn't actually going to try it. Still, that night when his parents were watching the news and he was sitting with his tablet, he downloaded the alien game, just to try it out. That night, when he was laying in bed to try to sleep, there was a strange sound outside his window. "Hello?" he called, getting up and peering through his blinds. "Is anyone there?" Suddenly, the world turned bright green. Something grabbed him by the chest and started to tug. Alex flailed, but he couldn't get free. The green light pulled him through his window and up into the air. Far above, he could see the alien mothership. It was drawing him into its belly in some kind of tractor beam. There was a humming whoosh, a persistent tugging at his chest. Strange, alien faces peered out from a hatch that opened like a camera shutter. "No! No, please!" Alex screamed, and the light went out. He started to fall. The ground was rising fast, coming up to meet him, and he woke with a start, sweat standing out all over his body. The light from his nightlight wasn't enough to drive the fear away. Neither was the salt lamp. Neither was the light switch and the big overhead light. The fear clung to him like a shadow, smothering him until Alex felt his breath coming in ragged sips. In the end, he picked up his blanket and pillow and snuck into his parents' room, finally feeling safe enough to sleep curled up on the floor behind their bed. The next morning at breakfast, his dad brought it up, even though he'd really been hoping he wouldn't. "So," he said, pouring him cereal, "I noticed you had a little sleepover last night." "Yeah, sorry," Alex said. He started filling his mouth with Cinnamon Toast Crunch to try to avoid talking, but Dad knew that trick and waited between bites. "Anything we need to talk about?" "I just had a bad dream," Alex said, cheeks reddening. "Just a bad dream? Look at those dark circles under your eyes. It's more than just one bad dream." Alex sighed, and then told his father the story of his nightmares. He started with the pirate and the rusty blades, and the shark and the aliens and the fear, the shaky, heart-thumping fear, most of all. "Well, that's your problem," Dad said. "You're trying to fight fear with more fear. That's a losing game, son, especially at night. In the dark, everything seems scarier. That's just human nature." "Why, though?" Alex asked. "I'm not afraid of pirates or sharks or aliens during the day. I think all that stuff is fun." "Because in the dark, you don't know what's really there." "I do too know. It's my bedroom." "During the day, sure. But at night, the dark is the unknown, and that's always scary. Our brain doesn't like not seeing, so to keep us safe, it tries to figure out if there's anything dangerous. Think of the dark like a blank sheet of paper. If a person has a good imagination, like you do, they can fill that blank sheet with all sorts of nightmares. One leads to another, and before you know it, the page is all filled up with scary stuff, and you're making yourself panic." Alex took a few slow bites of cereal. "Of course, this is all much worse if you fill your brain with pirates and sharks and aliens just before bed." Alex flushed again and started to argue, worried his dad was going to take away his tablet. Dad held up a hand to stop him. "I'm not taking anything, but just do me a favor tonight. We'll start tablet time a little earlier, and before bed, I'm going to give you a book." "A book?" Alex asked skeptically. Reading wasn't his favorite. "Books always put me to sleep," he complained. "Sounds just about perfect for bedtime, doesn't it?" "I guess." "Just give it a chance," Dad said. And that night, Alex went to bed a little early with a book his father had given him. It was a peaceful book about a boy who leaves home to make a cozy little house in a tree. There were no pirates, no sharks or aliens or explosions of any kind, but it was still good. Alex drifted off to sleep when the main character met his new neighbor, a weasel he named the Baron. That night, the only dream Alex remembered was hiking through the woods, looking for his own perfect tree to call home. And he slept soundly through the night, not waking up until the next morning when his dad called him down for breakfast. The end.
Thanks for listening.